"We'll be there tomorrow. Your father agreed." That was the first sentence she said. No greeting, no congratulations, no pause. I was standing barefoot on the deck of the lake house I had closed on 6 hours earlier. The wood was still warm from the afternoon sun. The water below was flat and dark, reflecting the moon like brushed steel. I had worked 11 years for that view. 11. The house cost $3.9 million, every dollar traceable to my name. "Who is this?" I asked, though I knew. "Don't play games, Eliza," she replied smoothly. "It's Marion." My stepmother never wasted words when she felt entitled. "We're packing tonight," she continued. "The city is too chaotic. Your father needs peace. The lake air will be good for his blood pressure." I looked out over the dock. "My dock? You didn't ask," I said evenly. "Oh, please," she sighed. "It's a family property." "It's not." Silence, then a small, amused exhale. "Your father said it's fine." "I spoke to him this morning. He didn't mention that." "He didn't want to burden you." There it was. The pivot, the implication that I was selfish for questioning. "You can take the guest room upstairs," she added. "It's smaller, but you don't need much space." My hand tightened around the phone. The master bedroom had a full wall of glass facing the water. The design was intentional. My mother had loved water. I bought the house because of that wall. "If you're uncomfortable," Marion said lightly, "you're more than capable of finding somewhere else." That was her style, dismissive generosity. I felt the tremor in my fingers. I steadied my voice. "Of course," I said, "I'll prepare everything." She hung up without goodbye. She always did. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I sat down on the deck steps and stared at the water. Then I called my father. He answered on the third ring. "Eliza, everything okay?" "Did you tell Marion she could move into my house?" Long pause. "What?" "She said you approved it." Another pause. "I never said that." He sounded confused, genuinely. "I told her you bought a place." "That's all." That was enough. The pattern clicked into place. This wasn't an assumption, it was a strategy. Marion married my father 8 years ago. My mother had died suddenly from an aneurysm. No warning. One morning she was packing for a weekend conference. That afternoon she was gone. My father didn't grieve loudly. He immersed himself in real estate law, 12-hour days, 14 sometimes. Marion appeared 18 months later. Elegant, organized, supportive. She managed schedules. Reorganized paperwork. Handled household transitions. Within a year, she controlled every account login. She framed it as efficiency. Dad framed it as relief. I framed it as temporary. It was. By the second year of their marriage, small things shifted. My old bedroom became her office. My mother's piano was moved to storage. Family holiday photos no longer included me unless I arrived early enough to position myself. It was subtle, but consistent. When I questioned anything, Marion smiled. "You're independent, Eliza. You don't need all this sentimental clutter." Independent, her favorite word. It meant excluded. I put myself through Columbia, finance degree, graduated at the top of my class, 2 internships in investment banking. I turned down the first firm that offered me a job because they assumed I'd burn out. I joined a restructuring consultancy instead. Longer hours, harder work, better leverage. I learned how companies collapse. I learned how signatures matter. I learned how to read intent inside spreadsheets. By 32, I was partner track. By 34, I walked away. Not because I failed, because I was done building someone else's balance sheet. I launched my own advisory firm. Smaller clients, more control. Within 5 years, I had accumulated $5.6 million in personal net worth. No one in my family knew. Marion never asked. At dinners, she'd introduce me as Eliza works with numbers. Then pivot to discuss her charity board memberships. I let her. Privacy is power when used correctly. The lake house was not impulsive. I'd been searching for 2 years. I wanted distance from Manhattan. Distance from Sunday dinners where Marion narrated my life incorrectly. The house sat on 1.4 acres in upstate New York, modern cedar exterior, floor-to-ceiling glass, 6 bedrooms, a detached guest cottage, and a dock. The seller accepted my offer within 48 hours, closed in cash. The deed was clean, title insured. I confirmed every line twice, because control matters. The morning after the phone call, 2 black SUVs pulled into the gravel drive at 10:03 a.m. Marian exited first. Cream linen suit, oversized sunglasses. She surveyed the property like an inspector. "Lovely," she said. Dad stepped out slowly. He looked tired. He carried a single overnight bag. Marian's driver unloaded 5 garment racks. She walked straight into the house without waiting. "Master is upstairs," she called. I followed calmly. "It's locked." She turned. "What?" "I changed the locks last night." Her smile thinned. "Eliza, don't be childish." "I'm not." Dad shifted behind her. "Marian," he said quietly, "we didn't discuss moving." She ignored him. "This is ridiculous," she said to me. "We are family." "No," I replied. "You're married to my father. That does not equal ownership." The temperature in the room dropped. She stepped closer. "You wouldn't have any of this without him." That was interesting. "I purchased this property with my own funds," I said evenly. "You can verify that through the county recorder's office." Her eyes flickered, just briefly. She hadn't expected documentation. Dad looked between us. "Eliza," he said, "what's happening?" "I'll show you," I said. I had spent the night reviewing something else. 8 months earlier, my attorney, Daniel Price, had flagged a transfer on one of my father's properties, a commercial building in Westchester. Ownership had quietly shifted to an LLC I didn't recognize. The signature looked strained. We saved a copy. I hadn't acted. I wasn't ready. Now I was. I laid the document on the kitchen island. "Dad, did you transfer Westchester Plaza to Fairmont Holdings LLC?" He frowned. "No." "Are you sure?" "Yes." Marian's jaw tightened. "That was restructuring," she said smoothly. "Tax planning." "Then you won't mind reviewing the operating agreement," I replied. Silence. Dad picked up the document, his brow furrowed. "That's not my signature." It was. I had compared it against 6 verified documents. The capital D lacked his habitual loop. Pen pressure inconsistent. Forgery, not amateur. "But detectable," Marian laughed lightly. "Oh, for heaven's sake, you're accusing me." "I'm presenting facts." Dad looked at her. "Marian." She placed a hand on his arm. "You're tired. You don't remember the restructuring meeting last year." "There was no meeting," he said slowly. For the first time, doubt entered his voice. That was the beginning, not the confrontation, the awareness. I watched Marian recalibrate in real time. She hadn't expected resistance. She especially hadn't expected preparation. "You're misunderstanding corporate structuring," she said coolly. "I understand it very well," I replied, because I did, and I knew this wasn't isolated. They left that afternoon, not dramatically. Marian said they needed to review documents. Dad hugged me before getting in the car. His grip lingered. "Eliza," he said quietly, "send me everything." "I will." The SUVs pulled away. The gravel settled. The house was silent again, but it no longer felt peaceful. It felt transitional. At 4:12 p.m., Daniel called. "There's more," he said. "Of course there is." He paused. 3 IRA withdrawals, totaling $410,000, deposited into an account under Marian Hale Consulting. My jaw tightened. How recent? Last 14 months. That meant during Dad's cardiac recovery, when he delegated finances. I stared at the lake, still water, deceptively calm. "Compile everything," I said. "What are you planning?" "Clarity." There is a difference between suspicion and proof. Suspicion feels emotional. Proof feels cold. I prefer cold. Daniel arrived at the lake house 2 days later with a leather briefcase and a controlled expression. He had been my attorney for 6 years. Meticulous, discreet, not prone to dramatics. He set the documents across the dining table in neat rows: IRA statements, transfer confirmations, LLC filings, corporate registrations. We moved through them in silence. 3 withdrawals from my father's retirement account. $140,000. $125,000. $145,000. Each rooted to an entity called Hale Advisory and Strategy, LLC. Registered 18 months ago. Single member, Marion Hale. Registered agent, Marion Hale. Business address, my father's Manhattan townhouse. No co-signature required, no secondary authorization. How? I asked. Daniel didn't hesitate. She had durable power of attorney during his cardiac rehab. I closed my eyes briefly. Of course she did. When Dad had his mild heart episode 2 years ago, Marion framed the paperwork as temporary efficiency. I'll manage logistics so you can focus on recovery. He signed. He trusted. She consolidated access. It wasn't sudden. It was layered. We continued. The Westchester commercial property. Transferred to Fairmont Holdings LLC 11 months ago. Fairmont Holdings listed a managing partner, Marion Hale. The deed had been recorded legally, but the signature on the transfer document was not his. Daniel slid over the forensic comparison he'd quietly commissioned after first noticing the irregularity. I wanted preliminary analysis before alarming you, he said. The handwriting specialist's report was concise. Signature displays simulated characteristics inconsistent with verified samples. High probability of non-genuine execution. Forgery, not ambiguous, not accidental, deliberate. How much total? I asked. Daniel ran the numbers again. $410,000 from IRA. Westchester Plaza valued at $1.6 million. Credit line opened under my father's name, $62,000 balance. Personal account under Marion's sole control, funded through joint checking transfers, $230,000. Estimated exposure, $2.302 million. The number did not shock me. The pattern did. This wasn't reactive spending. This was asset repositioning, quiet extraction. Does he know? Daniel asked. No. Then timing matters. He was right. If Dad confronted her without documentation secured, she could reposition assets again. Transfer, liquidate, dissolve. People who forge once rarely stop. They escalate. That night I drove into the city. I didn't call ahead. Dad answered the townhouse door himself. He looked older than he had on the lake dock, more uncertain. Eliza, he said, surprised. Can we talk? He stepped aside. Marion was not home. Board dinner, he said vaguely. We sat in the study, the same study where I'd done homework at 16. I placed the documents on his desk. I need you to look at these carefully, I said. He adjusted his glasses. Read slowly. The IRA withdrawals, the LLC registration, the forensic comparison, the transfer deed. His breathing changed halfway through, not dramatic, just shallower. That's not my signature, he repeated. I know. And this account, he tapped the Hale advisory statement. I never authorized this. No. Silence settled, heavy. He looked up at me. How long? 18 months at minimum. His jaw tightened. I watched realization unfold. Not explosive, measured. He was a real estate attorney. He understood liability. He understood exposure. He understood betrayal in contractual terms before emotional ones. I trusted her, he said quietly. I know. He leaned back in his chair, stared at the ceiling. She handled everything when I was in recovery. I didn't want to worry about details. That was the point. He closed his eyes, for a long time. When he opened them, they were clear. What do you recommend? That question changed everything. He wasn't defending her, he was asking for structure. First, I said, we revoke her power of attorney immediately. He nodded. Second, we freeze every joint account. He nodded again. Third, we initiate forensic accounting review on all asset transfers over the past 2 years. His lips pressed thin. And Marion's? That depends on whether you want private containment or public accountability. He didn't answer immediately. He didn't need to. I saw the calculation. Reputation, firm partnerships, bar association, charity boards. and the man across from me had built his identity on professional integrity. Forgery destroys that. Silence would implicate him. Marian returned at 9:14 p.m. She entered the study mid-sentence. "Eliza, what a surprise." She saw the documents. Her eyes sharpened instantly. "What is this?" Dad didn't raise his voice. "Did you transfer Westchester Plaza?" She smiled, weary, condescending. "We've been over this." "Answer the question." "I restructured it for tax purposes." "Without my signature." "You signed." "No." The word was quiet, but final. She shifted strategies. "You don't remember." "I remember." Silence stretched. I stepped forward. "The forensic analysis indicates the signature was simulated." Her gaze snapped to me. "You hired someone to examine my husband's handwriting." "Yes." She laughed. Short, brittle. "This is absurd." Dad stood. "I am revoking your power of attorney effective immediately." The color drained slightly from her face. "You can't be serious." "I am." Her eyes darted to me. "This is her doing." "Yes," he said calmly, "it is." The simplicity of that response unsettled her more than accusation would have. She attempted tears next. "It was impressive." "I was protecting us," she whispered. "You were vulnerable. I handled stress so you wouldn't have to." Dad didn't move. "By forging my name." Her silence confirmed more than denial could. She left the room without another word. The door closed upstairs. Hard, Dad sank back into his chair. "I married her because she seemed steady," he said. "She studied you," I replied. He looked at me, not defensively, just with dawning clarity. "Is there more?" "Yes." I showed him the credit line, the personal account, the cumulative number. He inhaled slowly. "File what needs to be filed," he said. "You're sure?" "Yes." No tremor. No hesitation, just resolve. The next morning, Marian attempted one final pivot. She approached me in the kitchen. "Eliza," she said quietly, almost gentle, "you're making a mistake." "I don't think so." "You'll fracture your father." "He's already fractured." Her eyes hardened. "You think this makes you righteous?" "I think it makes the numbers accurate." She leaned closer. "If you do this publicly, you'll regret it." There it was, threat, not apology. "You forged a legal document," I said calmly. "That wasn't private." Her lips thinned. "You have no idea how this will unfold." "I do," I replied. "That's the difference." Daniel filed the revocation of power of attorney that afternoon. All major accounts were flagged. A forensic accountant began review, and I made a decision that shifted this from quiet correction to structural exposure. The New York Real Estate Bar Association's annual awards gala was scheduled in 6 weeks. Marian was slated to receive the Community Leadership Award for ethical stewardship in property development. The irony was almost elegant. I called Daniel. "If we present the evidence to the ethics committee before the award is conferred, what happens?" "They are obligated to review." "And if criminal filings are initiated simultaneously?" "The award cannot proceed." "Good." He paused. "Eliza, this will be public." "I know." "And irreversible." "Yes." Silence, then a measured reply. "I'll prepare." That evening, I returned to the lake house alone. The sun was setting across the water. Orange light through glass. Still. Calm, I poured a glass of wine, not to celebrate, to steady. This wasn't revenge. Revenge is loud. This was correction, structured, documented, measured. Marian had operated for years assuming invisibility equaled immunity. She underestimated something fundamental. I built my career analyzing collapse, and I had finally turned that skill inward. The formal complaint was 42 pages. It did not use adjectives. It did not speculate. It listed dates, account numbers, signatures, and statutory references. Forgery in the first degree. Financial exploitation under state penal code. Identity misuse for unauthorized credit extension. Every claim was backed by a document. Every document had independent verification. Daniel submitted the complaint to the Manhattan District Attorney's Financial Crimes Division on a Tuesday at 10:14 a.m. By 3:40 p.m., an investigator called requesting copies of the original signature samples. Momentum begins quietly. It accelerates in paperwork. Marian tried to stay composed. For the first 3 days after the revocation, she behaved as though nothing had shifted. She hosted 2 dinner guests. She attended a charity luncheon. She posted a photo on social media captioned, "Grateful for strong partnerships and community leadership." But she had miscalculated the timeline. On Friday morning, Coastal National Bank froze the Hale Advisory and Strategy account pending investigation. The $410,000 sat immobile. The credit line was suspended. Fairmont Holdings LLC received a legal notice requiring production of operating documents. By noon, she knew. I saw it in the way she entered the townhouse that evening. No performance, no tears, just calculation. "You've involved prosecutors," she said flatly. "Yes." "You realize what that means?" "I do." "It means your father's name will be dragged through this." "No," I replied evenly. "Yours will." Her jaw tightened. "You're enjoying this." "No." That was true. There was no pleasure, only precision. Dad avoided the study for 2 days. I understood why. That room now represented failure of oversight. But on Sunday afternoon, he called me into it. "I spoke to the ethics chair of the Bar Association," he said, "and they asked whether there is any substantiated evidence regarding Marian's eligibility for the Community Leadership Award." "And what did you say?" I said yes. That word cost him something, but he didn't flinch. "They requested documentation," he continued. "I'll provide it." He looked at me carefully. "Eliza, once this goes to the ethics committee, there's no containing it." "I know." "And you're certain?" "Yes." He nodded slowly. "Then we do it properly." The ethics submission was smaller than the criminal complaint, only 19 pages, focused exclusively on the forged deed and fiduciary breach. The committee's bylaws were clear. Any nominee under credible investigation for financial misconduct must be reviewed before award confirmation. The gala was scheduled for September 12th, 4 weeks away. Marian had already purchased her gown. I knew because she left the receipt on the kitchen island. $7,800, champagne silk. 2 weeks passed without confrontation. That unsettled me more than anger would have. Silence means planning. I reviewed asset records daily. No new transfers, no liquidations. Her access had been severed cleanly. One evening, she entered the kitchen while I was making tea. "You could still stop this," she said. "It's already moving." "You think prosecutors care about family disputes?" "This isn't a dispute." Her eyes narrowed. "You're framing it that way." "No, the statutes frame it that way." She stepped closer. "You've always resented me." "I've always observed you." The distinction mattered. Resentment is emotional. Observation is strategic. You're destroying your father's marriage. He deserves truth. "You think truth is clean," she whispered. "It is when documented." For a moment, something flickered in her expression. Not fear, not guilt, recognition. She understood I was not improvising. The district attorney's office requested my father's sworn statement in person. We went together. Small conference room, neutral walls, recording device on the table. "Did you authorize transfer of Westchester Plaza to Fairmont Holdings LLC?" "No." "Did you authorize IRA withdrawals totaling $410,000 to Hale Advisory and Strategy?" "No." "Did you open or approve the supplemental credit line ending in 4821? "No." Each answer was steady. Not emotional, just clear. The investigator closed her notebook. "This is significant," she said. "Yes," my father replied. 3 days later, Marian was formally notified of investigation. She retained counsel immediately. Nathan Caldwell, aggressive, media-savvy, predictable. He contacted Daniel proposing private settlement, repayment of funds, withdrawal of complaint, non-disclosure. Daniel relayed the offer. I didn't hesitate. No. Dad agreed, quietly but firmly. This is no longer negotiable, he said. That sentence closed the door. The ethics committee scheduled a preliminary hearing the morning of the gala. Closed session. Documentation reviewed in advance. Marian was informed. She remained outwardly composed. But she stopped rehearsing speeches. Stopped discussing seating charts. Stopped mentioning the award. Instead, she made one final move. 2 nights before the gala, she entered the lake house unannounced. She still had a key from before I changed the locks. She found me on the deck. The sky was turning violet over the water. "You're very proud of yourself," she said. "I'm not proud. You should be careful what you expose." I looked at her. That sounds like a threat. It's advice. She stepped closer. "You think your finances are untouchable." "I know they are." She studied me, searching. "You always underestimated me," I said quietly. "No," she replied. "I misjudged your tolerance." That was accurate. For years, I tolerated exclusion, dismissal, narrative shifts, but financial exploitation crossed a line that sentiment never could. "You could have left quietly," she said. "Yes. And you chose spectacle. I chose documentation." She laughed softly. "We'll see how that plays." She left without another word. September 12th arrived cold and sharp. The Bar Association ballroom was designed for prestige. High ceilings, crystal chandeliers, marble floors, 212 guests, judges, developers, partners, board members, reputation heavy in the air. Marian arrived in champagne silk. Poised, polished. Dad and I entered separately. Strategic, she saw me across the room, her expression unreadable. The ethics hearing had occurred at 3 p.m. closed session. 40 minutes. Evidence presented. No ruling announced publicly. Not yet. At 8:27 p.m., the MC approached the podium. "Before we proceed to tonight's awards." The room quieted. Marian's shoulders straightened. "The ethics committee has requested a brief statement." The air shifted, subtle but real. Judge Harrison, chair of the committee, stepped forward. "Ladies and gentlemen, following review of substantiated documentation presented to this association, we have determined that the Community Leadership Award cannot be conferred this evening." A murmur spread, controlled but unmistakable. Marian remained standing, smile frozen. Judge Harrison continued. "Further review is pending regarding financial conduct related to the nominee. We will not comment further until legal proceedings conclude." Silence, then whispers. Marian turned toward my father. "Say something," she hissed. He did, but not to defend her. "I did not authorize those transfers," he said clearly. Several heads turned, phones subtly lifted. Documentation had already been provided to select board members. This was no surprise to them, only to her. She stepped away from the table, clutch in hand, heels sharp against marble. She did not look at me as she exited. She didn't need to. The shift had occurred. Publicly, without theatrics, without raised voices. Just policy and evidence. Dad and I left 10 minutes later. Outside, the air felt colder, cleaner. He stopped on the sidewalk. "I should have seen it," he said. "Yes," I replied gently, "but I didn't." "No." He looked at me. "I won't miss it again." That was enough. The indictment came 10 days after the gala. 4 counts. Forgery in the first degree, financial exploitation, identity fraud, fraudulent transfer of property. The language was sterile, precise. Each count tied to a document, each document tied to a signature. Each signature tied to intent. Marian was instructed to surrender voluntarily. She did, Monday morning. 9:05 a.m. Manhattan Criminal Court. Nathan Caldwell at her side. Neutral expression. No visible panic. Bail set at $150,000. She posted it within 2 hours. That surprised no one. What surprised her was the restraining order granted simultaneously. No contact with my father. No access to joint accounts. No entry into the townhouse or the lake property. Effective immediately. For the first time since she married him, she was structurally outside his life. The townhouse felt different that evening. Quieter, but not hollow. Dad sat at the dining table with a folder in front of him, divorce petition. Grounds, fraud upon the marriage and dissipation of marital assets. He signed without hesitation. No dramatic speech. No emotional collapse, just a clean signature. One that matched perfectly. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. Public reactions split predictably. Half sympathy for Marion. Half support for accountability. But the criminal charges shifted the narrative. This was no longer a family disagreement. It was a prosecutable offense. The district attorney's office moved deliberately. Bank records subpoenaed. Digital forensics pulled from devices. The forensic handwriting report formally entered. Each step added weight. Marion's counsel attempted a negotiated settlement. Restitution in exchange for reduced charges. No jail time. Probation. Dad declined. "This isn't about money," he said. He surprised even me when he said it. It was about pattern, trust, deliberate deception, and the theft of autonomy. We met with a forensic accountant to assess full exposure. The numbers settled at $2.36 million. Recovered assets, $642,000 frozen. Westchester Plaza placed under court supervision pending title restoration. Credit line voided. The rest subject to litigation. Dad absorbed the figures without visible reaction. Then he said something I hadn't expected. "I want therapy. Not crisis counseling. Not reputation management. Therapy. I need to understand how I let someone isolate my daughter for years and never question it." The statement carried more weight than the indictment. Accountability inward is harder than legal accountability outward. The divorce proceedings moved faster than the criminal case. Marion attempted to claim partial ownership of the townhouse. Claimed she had contributed to household management value. The judge was unmoved. The forged deed alone weakened her position dramatically. Discovery uncovered additional inconsistencies in her financial disclosures. Her credibility deteriorated quietly, not in headlines, in filings, where it matters. Paige called me 3 weeks after the indictment. Her voice was different, less defensive, more aware. "I didn't know," she said. "I believe you. I saw things, but I didn't look closely. That's human. She told me you were unstable, that you resented her, that you exaggerated everything. That was useful for her." "Silence, she's my mother," Paige whispered. "I know. And she did this." "Yes. I don't know what to do with that." "You don't have to do anything immediately." That was the truth. Recalibration takes time. The lake house remained my refuge. The dock, the water, the steady horizon. Dad began visiting on weekends, not to escape, to rebuild. He brought groceries once. Cooked dinner, it was terrible, we ate it anyway. The simplicity felt earned. No performance, no narrative shaping, just presence. One afternoon in late October, I received a message from Marion. Violation of the restraining order. Indirect contact through a third party. "I never meant to hurt him," the message read. Intent is irrelevant when harm is documented. Her attorney claimed it was accidental. The judge extended the order. No tolerance for ambiguity. She had operated for years with an ambiguity. That door had closed. December arrived with trial scheduling. March. 6 months from indictment to jury selection. Efficient by New York standards. Marion's counsel attempted one final negotiation. Guilty plea on reduced charge, probation, financial restitution. Dad looked at me before answering. I did not speak. This was his decision. "No plea," he said. "I want the record clear." That was growth, not anger, clarity. The night before Christmas, Dad handed me something unexpected, a small envelope. Inside was a photograph, my mother, on the dock of a different lake, years ago, laughing. "I kept this hidden because Marion said it made the house feel heavy," he said. He looked embarrassed. "I should have fought harder." "You're fighting now," I replied. He nodded. I am. The house felt lighter without Marion's presence. Not because conflict was gone, but because distortion was. There were no rehearsed conversations, no quiet redirections, no strategic isolation. The atmosphere shifted from curated to authentic. That matters more than Dacre. In